Hi, Daisy, and welcome to my podcast, episode 18 of Off the Rails with me, Claire. I'm so happy to have you here today to discuss all things around your business, Loom. So for anybody listening, we'll be going into Daisy's company, Loom, understanding exactly how she come up with the concept, what it's all about. I won't give too much away because I'll leave it up to you, Daisy, to give us that. And before we dive in, if you are enjoying my podcast, please like and subscribe. So, Daisy, good to have you. Thanks for joining in today and agreeing to do this podcast with me.
No, really looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, I'd love, and obviously everybody listening, we'd love to know a little bit more about you. So, I was, let's say, attracted to your profile on LinkedIn, a project that you're working on at the moment. I won't give too much away because I think it's definitely better coming from you, but it's around, just to give a bit of a teaser before we get into that topic, it's around wedding dresses and kind of giving them a bit of a second life. That's what drew me to you. But let's rewind a little bit. And I'd love to know about you, where you started your career, and how you ended up doing what you're doing right now. So take us through that a little bit, that journey.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been a kind of a windy journey. So I actually didn't study anything to do with fashion, but I've always worked in fashion. So studied French and English randomly. But while I was at uni, decided and kind of realized that I loved the fashion industry. So spent all my summers interning. And then after I graduated, while I was at uni, worked in Paris for a little bit in marketing, and then started working in merchandising for TK Maxx. And following that, then worked at Burberry, so leading their merchandising outlet team, which was great. And I really loved working within the fashion industry. But I think one of the big things that started to kind of change the direction of where I was going was my passion for sustainability. So about probably 5 years ago now, it sounds quite dramatic actually, but I was on a work trip and there was a school protesting climate change, and they were handing out flyers asking what impact you were going to have on their future. And at the time, I was working for more of like a fast fashion brand, and I was thinking it's not good at all what I'm doing. So I started researching sustainability within the fashion industry a lot more. And decided that I wanted to do my own thing so like I could really focus on sustainability. So previous to my business now, Loom, I had another business which was called Loft, which was a sustainable fashion marketplace. So launched that in 2020, just before COVID hit. Ran that for a few years, and then Loom was kind of an evolution of that business in a way. But yeah, maybe I can go into more of that. But yeah, it's kind of been a windy journey.
Yeah, but I love the way, because I get a lot of people that listen to these podcasts and contact me through my consultancy as well around career change and, not necessarily having that direct route. I personally always understood what I wanted. I always wanted to do fashion, and that was it. Nobody was going to stop me. But I realized, when I kind of took my blinkers off, it's not as easy for everyone. Or, like you've mentioned, you studied English and French, but you always had this kind of burning desire of the fashion industry and what that could look like if you were involved in it. So I love that fact that you kind of listen to your gut feeling, like, there's something different that I want to do. And then you did that and you changed the course again. Okay, I love what I'm doing, but I can take it even further. This part of me is more passionate about, the sustainability side of things. Sustainability is such a topic, such a huge topic that people either, avoid it like a hot potato because they're like, oh, okay, if I don't do it right, then I'm not doing it at all. But there is little things that we can all do, and I think that's what's important about this topic as well. So tell me, you started Loom. What was kind of your first ideas when you do start a new business? What did you think? Did you have a plan? What did it look like when you thought, okay, right, I'm going to go for this?
So I think with Loom, it was very different to my first business. So I launched Loft, my first one, kind of just almost out of crisis. I was like, I need to make a change. I want to do my own thing. I love sustainable fashion. I'm going to create a marketplace which sells a curated selection of brands. But I was really creating what I wanted without really thinking about what other people wanted, and where there was a demand for actual business to exist. So that was a big mistake. Whereas with Loom, what happened was I was hosting a lot of events with Loft. And I kept having the same conversation with customers where they were saying, you know, I want to shop sustainably, but I can't find either the right style, it's too expensive, or, you know, I'm buying things and they don't fit me and I'm returning them and it just doesn't feel very sustainable. Plus, I've got a wardrobe full of clothes. I only wear, you know, a few items again and again. Like, what do I do with all of those things I don't wear? So actually on the side, I started connecting people with designers that I knew to get those clothes that they weren't wearing redesigned. And it was interesting because a lot of them didn't even realize that that was something that you could do, that you could get clothes kind of tailor-made really affordably and like working one-on-one with a small independent designer. And seeing how excited they were made me think, okay, there's something in this. They're really, really passionate about it. I can support these amazing designers that I've met as well at the same time. But I was hesitant because I'd kind of steamrolled into my first business. I wanted to make sure that with Loom, I was much more prepared. So I spent quite a while researching, speaking to as many people as I could, both designers and customers, applied for an accelerator and got accepted onto that. And that kind of helped me flesh out the idea. But even the idea itself has really kind of changed and pivoted over the last couple of years, because initially I was thinking, oh, could I have a warehouse full of dead stock and only use that? And I was like, actually, that's got a lot of problems that come with it. Or could we make anything bespoke? And I was like, actually, that's not that sustainable. So it's already kind of evolved quite a lot from the initial idea.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it's about that, isn't it? Really understanding what the customer's after. Like, we always have our own ideas, which is where anything stems from, of course. But then it's really listening to what people want and where the problem is, really. And then keeping that core idea, what the customer wants, and then bringing it back round, being the sustainable brand that you want to be and what you stand for. And I like the fact that you mentioned, you know, one thought at a certain point was having dead stock and then kind of reusing that. I know people that do that, but I agree it could, you know, how quick does that dead stock move then? There's so many things to think about. It's not easy. It's not a very clear, direct route. So yeah, it's again interesting to hear how you've continued to navigate. Okay, that doesn't work. That's not the most kind of not valuable, but the most sustainable without sustainable way of doing things. So yeah, a couple of things that I noticed, and I'd love to kind of hear like the reaction, what sort of people you kind of most engage with. When you do, I think one that I saw that you did, maybe it wasn't that recently, but it came to my feed recently, was around kind of knitwear as well. So that was sort of giving your knitwear a second life. So how to either adapt it, change it up, repair it. Who and what sort of people do you get, whether it's knitwear or something else? Like, but that one's just stood out in my mind. Who is it that comes to you? Is it very young people that are interested in it? Is it somebody what demographic is it that's kind of really engaging?
Yeah, so that's been quite interesting as well. So it's actually pretty varied. I'd say it's probably mainly millennials and upwards,
Right.
which I always found a bit surprising, because you hear a lot in the media about Gen Z being really sustainably focused. But I think you always kind of have to have that extra disposable income to invest in sustainable pieces. Obviously, you can buy secondhand fairly cheap, but sometimes. But no, for us, it's been kind of millennials and upwards, and the projects have been so varied. So we had someone recently who came with her father's ties, and she was like, could you turn these into a bag? And we did. So now she has this bag made of her father's ties. And we've had people come with dresses that we've turned into cords. Someone came with a leather skirt, we turned that into a bag. So it's kind of varied, but I think one key demographic we've had, which was a bit of a surprise again, but makes so much sense, was brides. So either coming to us with, say, for example, their mother's wedding dress that they want to get redesigned to wear on their own wedding day, or actually most of them are brides who, obviously, after your wedding, you don't really get a lot of opportunities to wear your wedding dress. So they're coming to us to either dye it a different color, change the style, maybe a mixture of both, so they can continue to wear it again and again. So I'd say the demographics change quite a lot, but something that's always similar is that the pieces that they're coming to us with have value to them, whether that's monetary value or sentimental value. And so they don't want to throw it away. They want to make sure that they can keep it alive.
Yeah, and that's actually the one thing that kind of targeted me and drew me to you. So I was kind of, for anybody listening, just before we started the podcast, Daisy and I were kind of lining on who is this person that contacted her through LinkedIn, i.e. me. So what it was that kind of caught my attention, it was a recent conversation that I was having with a very good friend of mine who will be 10 years married this year. And she wants to celebrate with some close friends, and she's kind of in this dilemma of, what do I wear? I want to look and feel the way I did on my wedding day. The silhouette of my dress was perfect. She'd invested a lot, but wants something that feels new. And we were looking through loads of websites, so this or that, and she was like, "No, it's not right. No, it's not right. I just love my own dress." And I was like, "Well, why don't you do something with your dress?" She's like, "Well, it's upstairs in an attic, and it's in a box, and it has been for 10 years." And kind of, whether it's some sort of AI or whatever was listening, it drew me to you. And now, obviously, this is going to be a perfect timing to go back to my friend and be like, "Oh my God, this is what you can do. There is sources, there is collaborations, and you're the person that's, you know, essentially promoting that there is a second life to be had out of your wedding dress." And there are so many people that, you know, invest, whether it is from a monetary point of view, like you've mentioned, or it's sentimental value passed down through generations, but want to put their own spin on it. Or like my friend in this example, where she wants to wear it for the second time, 10 years later. So I think it is a really interesting topic, and, you know, can you know, reach so many people. So what's it been like so far in this particular area? Because it is quite niche, wedding dresses. What have people, has there been any sort of very interesting, quirky kind of reactions or requests? What's it been like so far?
I'd say most of the time it's pretty straightforward. People want to get it dyed a different color and maybe change the length so that they can wear it to other weddings. And that's a really popular request, is that they want to be able to continue to wear it to like other special events. But then sometimes we do have people who have something really specific in mind. So maybe they want to actually create something with it for their children. So maybe it's like a christening, or like some toys. Sometimes we've had that request. And then it also depends on the dress. So if it's, some people have had these huge wedding dresses, and then we've had someone at the moment who has this really beautiful one with like this embroidered fabric over the top that she's getting turned into a cape. So yeah, there's some, it's really, really varied, but it's always really exciting. And I think for me, it's really lovely because so we've got a huge community of designers. We've got over 70, and we have specific designers who specialize in bridal, because obviously it's quite can be quite complex, and it needs to be someone who's super experienced to manage those projects. But seeing like the creativity across the board is always exciting, and seeing like the ideas that they come up with. Because normally what will happen if someone reaches out to us with a project, and then our designers kind of sketch things or pull kind of mood boards together. And yeah, I'm always amazed at what is possible, and all just the designs that they kind of send through. It's always really exciting, even as an onlooker.
Yeah, so that's essentially what you do. You're kind of the platform, and you then work with the designers directly. So I'm the customer, for example, I come through you and you manage the rest of the process, or do I get then to kind of come directly to the designers? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, so but essentially we're like a matchmaking platform. So you come to us, you just send us a photo, tell us any ideas if you have them. You don't need to have ideas. We can just come to you and say, do you like any of these ideas? We could do this. And then we matchmake you with the designers that specialize either in the fabric or the design that you're looking for. And then we'll connect you. Once you've chosen the designer you want to work with, we connect you directly. So it's all a little bit manual at the moment. So we do it mainly through like WhatsApp, but we've got our app, which is launching at the beginning of next year. So you'll be able to browse all of the designers and chat to them and have appointments and everything through the app, which will make it a lot easier.
Oh, cool. That's really nice. Yeah. So you're launching an app, you're not tied, from what I gather, to like a certain area. So it's like we've mentioned, it's second life, it's repairing, it's kind of redesigning, remodeling. Like it's broad what you do, which is brilliant, because you don't often, like you've mentioned through this, and I come from the fashion industry, you don't often think, oh yeah, if I got ties, I could make this. And it could be done from just wanting to kind of reuse something that, we're not as formal as maybe what we were, pre-COVID, actually. People don't dress the same, we're not as formal. So it could be kind of, rather than throwing something away, reusing it, sentimental value from, somebody that you wanted to reuse their ties and make a bag. I love that as well. And then you like this journey of how broad it is, then you're going through an app. I also saw kind of looking and wanting to know a little bit more about your business model. So you also do workshops as well. So you've got that, not only this platform where people can reach, and you've got this nice kind of broad spectrum of up to 70 designers, like you mentioned, but if people, love the creative, the feel, the touch, you also work on like a workshop basis. What does that look like, and how frequent are they? What does it look like?
Yeah, so, and it's for our customers, but also our designers as well. So there's obviously the upcycling platform, but we try to host as many events as we can outside of that as well, because I think with fashion in general, I think it's always so important, that in-person element, whether that's just shopping and kind of feeling the product, or if it's actually learning more about it. And I think any kind of productive workshop, whether that's like an upcycling or a sewing workshop or a pottery making, if you're being quite productive, it's very therapeutic. So yeah, we host a lot of workshops. So we actually host one monthly for Kingston Council, and it varies all the time. So we've had like a knitwear repair one, which might have been what you saw.
It is exactly that one.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. It caught me. I was like, oh my God, yeah, you think of so many, I have a knitwear box that gets hidden after every winter. And then I'm like, oh, that one's a bit tatty. I'm like, oh, I could do something. So yeah, that was what kind of drew me.
Yeah, so we had that one, which we're doing again in November. We have like screen printing, scrunchie making, couching. And then outside of that Kingston one, we also host that. It's kind of less kind of regularly, but like we've got a pop-up coming up where we've got another screen printing one in October. And we try to host them as much as we can. And then outside of workshops, we also do like the pop-up I mentioned, and also panel talk. So we've got one on September the 25th at Sunset House, which is all about redesigning your wedding dress, because it's obviously such an important item for people that they have so many questions. So we're to kind of help answer those questions, and also bringing along some examples and someone who's actually gone through the process herself to kind of talk through it and kind of answer any questions that people have.
That would be amazing. Yeah, because I think one thing, my wedding dress is at my parents' house.
Mm.
And yeah, some people, depending on your budget, some people spend an incredible amount on the wedding dress. So I guess there could be a fear also of, oh God, what if I do the wrong thing? It's
Yeah.
irreversible. So speaking to somebody that's one has done it, but also then giving the reassurance before you kind of commit, that's brilliant. And having that chance to, ask your questions in person is much more reassuring. You're seeing the people that you're trusting with something that is so precious because it holds a lot of memories and, all of that. And yeah, I think that's great. So how is that so far, the panel? What sort of interest have you had from people there as well? What does that look like?
Yeah, so on our panel we've got a bridal designer called Caroline Arthur, who's actually also written a book all about redesigning your wedding dress. And then we've got another one of our designers, Mariana, who specializes in natural dyes. So they're there to kind of talk through the process from a professional point of view, what is possible, and kind of just to give some ideas. And then we've got a stylist, Roberta Lee, who's going to talk us through it from her perspective and kind of what she's seeing within the fashion industry and like the change more towards sustainability. And then we've also got Chloe, who's a sustainable influencer who actually did redesign her wedding dress into like a Bloom Accord. She had this amazing vision from the beginning, and it looks incredible. So that's the panel, and then I'm moderating. But then we're also bringing along some examples so that people can kind of see what's possible. And yeah, the interest is kind of the reason why we put it together is because we did have so many brides reaching out to us with questions. So it's kind of like a celebration of the big movement towards people redesigning their wedding dresses. So yeah, no, it's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
It sounds really, really cool. And I think, like you say, whether you're a guest, you want to redesign for yourself or just to be more wearable, then it's cool to see how that can be translated. And when you need somebody to do the thinking for you, almost, you want to wear it again, but in which capacity is like, help me with this part. I just, I don't get it. So I love that. So a lot around this, like you say, it's been kind of a lot about people coming to you with ideas. Is there anything else that you can share with us, of course, that, there is a lot of interest that seems to be kind of trending with the consumer? Anything that you can let us in on?
Yeah, so I think right now we're really consumer focused, and so we've obviously got our app launching, and most of our projects at the moment are kind of bespoke for customers. But what we're also now focusing on is how we can help support brands. So one of the overall reason why I started Loom was to support the designers, but also to help bring sustainability more into the fashion industry. And working with brands means that we can do that on a much larger scale. So we're exploring exactly how it works, and we've done a couple of partnerships already. We've got some really exciting ones coming up. I don't think I can mention them just yet, but they're big. So we're working with like fashion brands and charities and taking their unsold stock or materials, excess material, and partnering them with our most experienced, talented designers to create an exclusive upcycle collection. And now we're also looking into building technology to help these brands actually properly manage that excess stock and track the data. Yes, it's kind of more techie, maybe a bit less sexy, but could have a big impact. So that's what we're starting to work on in the background.
No, that's brilliant. I know, and you'll know this as a planner as well. A lot of the conversations I had throughout my career were overstocks.
Yeah.
Stock that wasn't moving, end of season stock that was hemorrhaging, budgets that you needed to release and so forth. So having that and having somebody that can, again, what you're doing is being that bridge almost between what people intend to do but never one, have the right people to actually push it forward, have the time, know what to do. And there's so many businesses I've worked in a lot, well, all of them, to be honest. Every single business I've worked in, it is a common problem that overstock is there and doesn't get utilized. So that, again, you've tapped into something that is a reoccurring problem, and we shouldn't just, box off millions of pounds worth of stock, but we can give it a second life. You can, reuse the fabric, whatever that looks like, in whatever kind of capacity. Again, that's just like something that's really refreshing, because I've been in so many businesses where it's just like it disappears somewhere, and you're like, whoa. So
I think
that's brilliant.
That's why it's been tricky previously, because brands have been quite hesitant to kind of do anything with that stock, because it's almost, they feel like they're advertising that they haven't sold everything, but everyone knows you don't. And actually, now that there's new legislation coming into place in the EU, where brands have to find the sustainable solution and be more responsible about their excess stock and kind of report it, it's kind of one, forcing their hand, but also it's a win-win, because the stock, they would either donate it, sell it at a loss, or destroy it. But if they work with Loom, they're supporting an independent designer, and then they can actually make a profit off of that stock, rather than it just kind of writing it off. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time seeing it all kind of come together, and that brands are actually looking for, they're setting ESG goals and they're looking for solutions to reach them.
It's brilliant. Yeah. And there's, just talking to you now, like there's so many plates just spinning, because you do this very like niche one-on-one for the bride that wants something different, for example. Then it's this, your workshops repairing or upskilling people with making and not realizing maybe they had a talent. And then there's this sort of bigger scale where it's really making an impact on a brand level, where there is, it's scale that is, just kind of sitting there, but giving it this second life, like you say, or doing something with this stock that essentially means that sustainability is real and there is something that can be done about it. So from kind of one-on-one to this brand kind of outlook is, it's really nice to know that there is somebody out there willing to take on this role, I guess, because it is such a huge topic. And like I said, I think it was before we actually started recording, people often are like, oh, sustainability, that's tough. And whether it's a brand or a person, like some people are like, oh, I don't want to say I am sustainable because then I have bought from this place. But you can do little things just to make a change, or you don't have to change overnight and be the most sustainable person in the world. Everybody can do their own version of sustainable. At least that's my thought process. And you can do what you feel comfortable with. And it's not a word that hopefully you shouldn't be intimidated by. It should be something we can all kind of.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's almost a shame, because with the word sustainable, I think some people are not scared of it, but almost like they don't want to use it. We find it even with the word upcycle, and that's why I use the word redesign a lot, because what we offer is like a premium service. But some people hear the word upcycle and kind of think, oh, not really for me. I'm not really like a sustainable person. So I think it's exciting at the moment that there's a lot of brands that are kind of making these sustainable or circular solutions, but also making them really valuable and fun, so that people do them because they want to, rather than they feel like they have to be sustainable. So obviously I'm biased about Loom, but then there's like rental or repairs, or like the surge in like buying vintage and secondhand, and apps like Wearing, where you have like a virtual wardrobe. So there's all these like really exciting solutions happening, which make it, people actually want to do it rather than feeling like they should, which I think is how you see change happen faster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you want to do things of your own accord and at your own pace. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
However, but when you do, it feels different. It just lands a little bit different. I find, it's super interesting. It is so complex and there's so many layers to it. It is a huge topic. So in your opinion, there is a lot of the sustainable platforms out there that people maybe could start with, or whatever that may look like. Who's doing it well? Who's kind of, somebody that you think, oh yeah, I like what they're doing, that's interesting?
Yeah. So I think two people spring to mind for me. So I think By Rotation, which is like a peer-to-peer rental app. I think that's great because you earn money off of renting your wardrobe. So, maybe you have a beautiful dress that you love wearing, but you don't wear it all the time. And then you can just rent it out and it stops people kind of buying more and more. So I think that's a really great solution that's out there. And I think there's more and more like really creative ones as well, like the wearing one that I mentioned, where you basically it's like a digital wardrobe and it gives you different style ideas to wear every day so that you're wearing everything. It gives you data on kind of like what you're not wearing and solutions for those. So I think they're two really exciting businesses that I'm kind of following quite closely. But there seems to be more and more all the time. Like I know I'm kind of in my little echo chamber, but there seems to be like more and more that I'm seeing. So it's exciting to see that like there's more like really inspiring sustainable brands coming out all the time.
No, there is, and I think those two that you've mentioned, I've never heard of, so definitely going to check them out because I think, sometimes you get lost in the detail and you're like, okay, who's doing what's going on? But that, I think, renting your own wardrobe, I never actually thought of that. I always just think there's these big platforms and they have racks and racks of, merchandise that they rent out. But the fact that you can do that, customer to customer as well it's cool. It's another opportunity, isn't it? There is so much stuff in our wardrobes that we don't want to let go of, but equally it's just sitting there. So if you can earn money, and let's face it, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't like it, a little bit of extra cash and having a side hustle, then it's great. I recently started selling some bits on Vinted, and that's kind of my gateway into it, but I find it really good. There's just things that I either give to charity or I would sell on there, and just finding it interesting that somebody else can give maybe something that's in pretty good condition, another kind of life. So I think there is a lot of brilliant platforms, the ones you've mentioned as well, and of course what you're doing is it's just that extra layer of kind of this more personal, like getting in touch with somebody and being able to kind of leverage your thoughts and putting that into an action, I guess. So that's brilliant. So I guess there's lots. My question almost feels a little bit like you've almost answered it for me, but maybe in a nutshell, what is next for Loom? You've got so much going on, all those things that you've mentioned, but what's kind of a little bit maybe 6 to 9 months down the line? What's the plans there, if you can share it?
Yeah, of course. So I think the really big one is the launch of our app, which will be at the beginning of next year, and launching the beta version at the end of this year. So that's a huge one because we've been working on that for a while. So that's really exciting. And then I think the other big focus, which I mentioned, was our B2B services. So now we're speaking to brands, luxury and premium brands, to work out what the ideal solution would be for them, and that's really exciting just because of the impact that it can have. So our kind of customer facing app, and then behind the scenes our brand partnerships are the big focuses.
That's it's so cool. So anybody that's listening and wants to find you, where do they go? Where do they contact you to get any of these ideas that we've mentioned, whether it's the wedding dress, whether it's repairing, maybe joining the panel? Sorry, that's a huge ask. Joining the talk with the panel is what I should say. How do we learn all about you so that we can kind of follow everything that you're doing?
Yeah, so I think the best way at the moment is to follow us on socials, because that's where we share everything. And then we've got our link tree, which has the link to buy tickets for the event, and the link to kind of post your own project. You can just DM us if you have any questions as well. So on both Instagram and TikTok, we're at the Loom app.
The Loom app. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's how you can find us.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's amazing how you find people. Like I say, I don't know whether it was my phone listening to me or what, but either way, it's brought me to this, and I've learned a lot. I always love meeting anybody, but I love meeting female founders that are not afraid to just keep pushing at something they truly believe in. You've got a passion and you're making it work, and that impact that it has, not only socially, but to people one-on-one as well, like creating things that, you know, whether it's, like we said, financial or sentimental value, giving it another life. So I love that. And I think it's a very kind of precious thing that you're doing, and how it comes about. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. Looking forward to seeing what's next. I will keep my eyes open. I'm sure there's going to be something else that attracts me to what you're doing, because I'm invested now. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, no, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Loved it. Yeah, okay. Anybody that's loved what we've spoken about today, with Daisy, of course, follow on the socials. I'll link everything to this podcast and on my socials as well. So thanks, Daisy, and speak to you soon. Thank
Thank
you.
you.